To the U.S.-Mexico border this afternoon, he renewed his call for comprehensive immigration reform. The president vowed again to push for the DREAM Act in Congress. Fox News has learned the Obama administration will allow selected senators to see the photos of Osama bin Laden's dead body, but only if they go to CIA headquarters to view the pictures. And in Memphis, Tennessee, the Mississippi River has crested, washing away crops and damaging homes. Now other states downstream are preparing for flooding over the next couple of weeks. You can read more about President Obama's trip to the border on foxnews.com. The Glenn Beck program returns in a moment, but first, Brett previews special report. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Patty Ann, coming up, Washington reacts to the president's immigration reform speech. Brett Hume is here with analysis. And the president's health care law goes to court again. Please join me in 26 minutes for a special report. Now back to Eric in for Glenn.
Boeing, the world's largest aerospace company, wants to start production at a new $2 billion manufacturing plant in South Carolina this July. That plant would create more than 1,000 jobs, but the government's National Labor Relations Board is trying to stop Boeing because this new plant would be in South Carolina, a right-to-work state, instead of in Washington state, where labor rights are the law of the land. So here's a company who's trying to create jobs, but is getting a roadblock from the White House. Let's bring in my good friend Verge Bonero, the mayor of Lansing, Michigan. Verge, do you support the NLRB's decision?
Well, I support the law, and I support people having an opportunity. You know, I was brought up to believe that you reap what you sow, and what Boeing has sown is seeds of discontent. I mean, let's tell the rest of the story here, Eric. Let's be honest. This is a company that gets just got a $30 billion contract from the federal government, gets a lot of its proceeds and profits from the federal government. This is a company that made over $500 million just in the first quarter of this year, and yet pays its workers $11 an hour. Starting pay is $11 an hour. That's a little more than $20,000 a year. But the CEO of the company made $20 million, 1,000 times,
you know
1,000 times the average worker.
It's a free market. It's a private business. They can pay their CEO whatever the heck they want. You or I should have no problem with it. The only one who should are shareholders. Let's get back to the issue, the labor issue. What in the world? Why does the NLRB have an opinion about Boeing opening a new plant in South Carolina?
The NLRB
they
has
already
an opinion.
have a plant in Washington state.
The NLRB has an opinion and a role in how workers are treated. And I want to live in a country where workers have rights and can choose to form a union if they wish. You know, I don't wake up in the morning and say, WWPD, what would Putin do? I want to live in a country where people have rights and people have freedom of association.
Does the NLRB have a right to tell Boeing how much profit it can make?
Well, of course not.
Well, that's what they're doing. They're saying
the point
you can't hire workers at a lower wage in South Carolina. You need to hire them in Washington state, or we can get our grimy little Goonian hands on you and raise your wage.
I don't think that's what they're saying. I think what they're saying is that workers have rights, and I think they've made a legal finding of fact that workers are being punished for their union activities. And I want to live in a country where people have the right to belong to a union without fear of reprisal. Now, maybe that's not the America you envision, but that's the America I want to live in.
No, the America I envisioned is a free market America like South Carolina says, right to work, pay them what you want, do what you have to do.
Well,
build a plant here, hire 1,000 people, spend $2 billion in our state.
Wonderful.
That is the market. That's what's going to bring the economy back. Not pretending to have a false wage level like Washington State or Michigan.
Boeing was warned well in advance that there was going to be problems, that they should not proceed because they had an unresolved labor issue in Washington State. They chose to go ahead. Their investors, they made that decision. Now, that's their decision. They'll live with it. They've made their bed. But I say let's look at the rest of the story. These workers, while Boeing's profits were soaring, the workers went without a pay raise for 6 years. Now, I'd like to know how that would work with you, Eric. If you went without, let me finish. If you went without a pay raise for 6 years, you'd probably switch over to MSNBC.
You know what else comes with profits? Taxes. And that's exactly what you need. The taxes are what's paying all those federal salaries, all those federal unionized workers. Listen to this. If you're in a union, all wages considered, $917 per week unionized, $717 non-union, same workers, 28% higher. Is that fair?
I'm not sure what you're talking about because I'm not looking at a graph.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, if you're in a union,
are you saying
you're paying 28% more than if you're non-union.
Well, you're saying that union workers pay more taxes?
No, I'm sorry. My point was about Boeing paying more taxes with profit. I'm saying the union model raises wages artificially.
I disagree. Unions have raised everybody's wage. They didn't just raise the union wage. They raised the non-union wage. That's how we got a middle class in this country. And now, interestingly, when the unions are down to about 7% of the population, interestingly, the middle class is under attack, being eroded.
Why
and
is
the rich are getting richer. Why is it? Because you're allergic to the term "share the wealth." You think it's socialism.
I'm allergic to that term.
Yeah,
you're right.
I don't know where you come from, because the fact is that's what created the middle class in this country.
No, that's what created Marxism, not
here's
capitalism.
A fact. I don't want to confuse you with the facts, but let me give you one. The average CEO used to make 30 times what the average worker made. Now it's 300 times.
You think
and what's happening is the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class is being eliminated.
And who should tell us what that ratio should be? You, Verge? You, Mayor of Lansing, Michigan? By the way, how's it working for Lansing, sir?
What I believe in is a country where people can choose to form a union if they so choose, and they don't have to worry about being punished for it. Well, now, I know you prefer emerging markets like China and Russia, where they have authoritarian governments.
Let's stay in Lansing,
authoritarian governments that keep people down so they can pay their people dirt and pollute their environment and get away with it.
Do you or do you not have a budget gap this year?
Of course I do.
And what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it, Verge?
Well, for 5 years I've been cutting, and I'm going to have to go right on cutting and trying to do what's right, trying to provide the best services I can. I've cut my pay, and I've cut the pay of all my top people, and I'm negotiating with unions. I'm negotiating with the unions.
Go ahead.
And reopening their contracts so workers to get concessions.
To lower the wages, right?
I'll have no choice.
See, well, you're contradicting yourself, Verge. On one hand, you're telling me raise the wages, send the people to Washington State, don't go to South Carolina, but you're saying I have to cut wages.
Here's a little difference for you, Eric. Now, see if you can follow the money. Boeing is making record profits. I just got through telling you Boeing made $500 million in the first quarter, and they made continuing profits. And while their profits were soaring, they refused to share the wealth with their workers.
Are you going to raise taxes?
I put that up to the voters. The voters said no, so the answer is no.
Fantastic. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, Verge Bernero.
Good to see you.
While Osama bin Laden is no longer a threat to the U.S., his death is opening up a whole new set of terror concerns. Should we bring back the water bucket? And is Pakistan really a friend or an enemy in our war on terror? We're going to debate all that after this.